I should tell you who I was before I tell you what he said. I was 31 years old. I had been a trauma nurse for 7 years, the last 4 of them at a level 1 trauma center in San Diego that received, among its regular volume, the military cases, the ones that came in from the bases, from deployments, from the specific category of injuries that occur when a human body encounters the modern machinery of war and survives the initial encounter and is delivered, still surviving, to people like me. I was good at the work. I want to say this plainly, without the specific hedging that women in medical professions sometimes apply to assessments of their own competence, the softening that turns I am good at this into I think I do all right or I try my best. I was good at it. I had the combination of technical precision and the ability to remain functional under conditions that caused other people to shut down, not the absence of feeling, but the ability to hold feeling in a place that didn't interfere with the work. My supervisor called it containment. I called it the job. I had been living in San Diego for 4 years. I had a lease on an apartment 3 miles from the hospital, a running route along the water, 3 people I called my close friends, and a personal life that I described, when people asked, as quiet. It was a truthful description. After 4 years of level 1 trauma, quiet had come to seem like an active achievement rather than a neutral state. I had learned to value it. I was not, in the way the word is typically meant, lonely. I was, in a way I had not yet fully examined, waiting for something. Not a person, specifically, not romance, in the way romance is packaged and expected. Something else. Something I did not have a word for and had stopped looking for because not looking was easier than looking and finding it absent. I had essentially stopped expecting the thing I was waiting for. This seemed, at 31, like maturity. It was, I would later understand, a ceiling I had built so gradually I had stopped being able to see it. Major Daniel Okafor came through my trauma bay on a Tuesday in February. Not as a patient, he was with a patient, a lance corporal from his unit who had been in a training accident and who had arrived with the specific controlled urgency of a military case where the chain of care has been well managed and the patient is stable but monitored. The major had accompanied him from the base. This was not unusual. What was unusual was that after the lance corporal had been assessed and stabilized and moved to imaging, the major remained, not in the way of someone who didn't know he should leave, but in the way of someone who had decided, for reasons that were not immediately clear, that remaining was the right choice. He was 38 years old. He was, I noted this the way I noted clinically relevant information, with a neutrality that was partially professional and partially the specific self-protective neutrality I had developed over years of working with military personnel, which required a category distinction I maintained carefully. He was the kind of physically present that is not about size or appearance specifically but about the quality of how someone occupies space. He was not large. He was contained, in the way I recognized from the work, the specific containment of someone who has spent years learning that economy of motion is not passivity but precision. He had a stillness that I recognized. It was the same stillness I had spent 7 years developing. He sat in the family waiting area and he was still in it, and I noticed this, and I went back to work. He was there when I finished my shift. Not waiting for me. I want to be clear about this, because the story could be told in a way that makes it seem like something it wasn't. He was there because the lance corporal's imaging had taken longer than expected and he had stayed, as he had apparently decided he would stay, until he had a complete picture of the young man's status. I came out of the staff area at 7:15 in the scrubs I had been wearing since 6 in the morning and with the specific quality of the end of a long shift, which is a quality that is neither attractive nor unattractive but is very legible, the body at the end of its performance, the face without the social layer, just the actual thing. He looked up when I came through the door. I recognized him. "How is he?" I said. I meant the lance corporal. "Stable," he said. "Fracture in the left radius, soft tissue damage. They're saying 6 weeks." "That's good," I said. "For the mechanism." He nodded. "You were on him when he came in," he said. "Yes," I said. "You were very calm," he said. I looked at him. "That's the job," I said. "I know," he said. "I've seen a lot of people do the job." "You were very calm. It was a specific observation, not a compliment exactly, more like the kind of assessment someone makes when they have been trained to assess and have assessed accurately and are stating the result. I recognized the mode. I used it myself. Thank you, I said. He stood. He was going to say something else, I could see the setup for it, and then his phone rang, and he looked at it, and said, I have to take this. He took it. I left. He came back 3 weeks later. The lance corporal had a follow-up appointment, and the major came with him, and this time the follow-up was administrative enough that I was at the nursing station when they came through and there was a natural pause in the machinery of the morning. You're here again, I said. He needed a ride, he said. You drove your lance corporal to his follow-up appointment. He doesn't have a car, he said. Simply. As if this explained everything, which it did. I looked at him for a moment. That's not required, I said. An officer driving a junior enlisted to a medical appointment. No, he said. But you did it. He needed a ride, he said again. I looked back at my chart. He'll be about 45 minutes, I said. I know, he said. I'll wait. He waited in the family area, the same chair as before. I watched him, in the peripheral way I watched everything in the unit, with the attention that doesn't look like attention. He had a book. He read it for 45 minutes without looking up, without checking his phone, without the specific restlessness of people who are waiting and finding waiting difficult. When the lance corporal came back out and they were leaving, the major paused at the nursing station. Major Okafor, I said. You know my name, he said. I read the intake forms, I said. He nodded. I don't know yours, he said. Mara, I said. Mara Ellis. Mara Ellis, he said. Thank you. For how you handled him. Both times. That's the job, I said again. I know, he said. You keep saying that. It keeps being true, I said. He almost smiled. Yes, he said. It does. He left. I went back to work. I thought about him, at some point in the afternoon, in the way you think about things that don't fit neatly into an existing category, not with intention, but with the peripheral attention that means something has registered and is being held somewhere while the rest of the day continues. The third time he came in was not a scheduled appointment. It was a Friday evening in April, the end of a shift that had been long in the specific way of Friday evening shifts, and he came through the main entrance at 7 o'clock when I was at the nursing station doing end-of-shift charting. He was not in uniform. He was not, this time, accompanying anyone. He stopped at the nursing station. I would like to take you to dinner, he said. If you're willing. I looked at him. I looked at him for long enough that he added, I understand if the answer is no. I wanted to ask directly rather than through a longer approach. Why directly? I said. Because I think you would find a longer approach annoying, he said. I looked back at my chart. I'm finishing in 20 minutes, I said. I'll wait, he said. He waited in the family area. Same chair. He did not have a book this time. We went to a Japanese restaurant 4 blocks from the hospital that I went to regularly and which he had somehow known about, which I discovered was because the lance corporal had told him I ate there, which was information the lance corporal had because I had mentioned it at some point during his follow-up, which was a level of advanced preparation I found, when he explained it, more interesting than presumptuous. You asked your lance corporal where I ate, I said. I asked him what he knew about you, he said. He mentioned the restaurant. He also said you were the calmest person he'd encountered in a hospital, which was not news to me. You did reconnaissance, I said. I gathered available information, he said. Before making a decision. Is that how you make decisions? It's how I make all decisions, he said. Acquire the available information. Assess. Decide. And the decision was dinner. The decision was to ask, he said. The dinner was your decision. I looked at him. You're precise about the distinction, I said. Agency matters, he said. You made a choice. I wanted that to be clear. I picked up my menu. It's clear, I said. We talked for 3 hours. Not about the things people talk about at first dinners in the way of performance, the resumes, the histories arranged for presentation, the narrative of a life constructed for an audience. We talked about the work. His and mine. The specific texture of what we each did and what it required and what it cost and what it gave back. He had been a Marine for 15 years. He had deployed 4 times. He had been in the specific category of officer whose job was to make decisions under conditions that did not allow for the luxury of certainty, and he had made them, and he had lived with their outcomes, and the living with outcomes had made him, over 15 years, the specific kind of person he was, contained, precise, with a quality of moral seriousness that was not heavy-handed but was present in everything he said, the way a structural element is present in a building without being visible. I told him about the trauma work. The real version, not the compressed one. He listened in the way he listened, fully, without performing attention, with the actual thing. At some point I said, the cases that stay with you aren't the ones that go wrong. The ones that go wrong you understand. The ones that stay are the ones that almost went wrong and didn't, and you know they didn't because of something you did in a specific second, and you know that second could have gone differently. He was quiet for a moment. Yes, he said. That's exactly right. You know what I'm describing, I said. I live in that description, he said. I looked at him. Most people don't understand it, I said. When I try to explain it. They hear it almost went wrong and they focus on the almost. They don't understand that the almost is what you carry. Not the outcome. The almost is the weight, he said. Yes, I said. Because the outcome is resolved, he said. The almost is still open. It remains possible, in the mind, to replay it into a different outcome. And so you do. Indefinitely. I set down my chopsticks. How long have you been doing that? I said. 15 years, he said. You? 7, I said. I thought it was a flaw. It's not a flaw, he said. It's the mechanism by which people who do this kind of work continue to improve. The replay is the learning. The problem is when the replay becomes the residence. I looked at him. The residence, I said. When you stop leaving it, he said. When the replay is where you live rather than where you learn. I sat with this. How do you leave it? I said. He thought about this carefully. I'm still learning, he said. We had dinner twice more in April. Once at the same restaurant, once at a place he chose near the waterfront. Both times we talked for longer than we intended to and neither of us seemed to find this a problem. On the third dinner, at the waterfront, at the end of the evening, I said something I had not intended to say. It came out of the way the conversation had gone, the specific honesty that the previous dinners had established, the register we had found that was more direct than I was used to and which I had, I realized, been adjusting toward without noticing. I said, whoever marries you will be lucky. He looked at me. I had meant it as I said it, as an honest observation, a fact stated in the mode of assessment, which was the mode we had established. He was the kind of person I had not previously encountered in the specific combination, the patience and the precision, the moral weight without self-righteousness, the ability to be fully present without requiring the other person to perform for the presence. He looked at me for a moment. Then he said, Mara. Yes, I said. I want to tell you something, he said. And I want you to hear it the way I mean it, not the way it might sound. I waited. What you just said, he said. You said it as a fact. An assessment. Not as, he paused. Not as an invitation. Not as a move in a direction. You said it because you believed it to be accurate. Yes, I said. I know, he said. And I want to respond to it the way it was offered. Not the way I might want to respond to it. I looked at him. The person who will be lucky, he said, is the person you're describing as the marrying kind. The person who deserves that luck. He paused. I have spent 15 years learning a great deal about myself. I know what I am capable of and what I am not. I know the specific ways in which what I do has made me who I am, and I know what that costs, the person who does this work and the person who is with the person who does this work. He was looking at me steadily. I have ended 2 relationships, he said, because the person I was when I came home was not the person they had known when I left. I don't say this to describe a flaw. I say it because it's accurate. The work changes you. The repeated deployments change you. I come back different, incrementally, and at some point the accumulation of incremental difference becomes something a relationship can't hold. I was very still. I'm telling you this, he said, because you said something honest and you deserve an honest answer. The honest answer is not thank you. The honest answer is, I don't know if the person who marries me will be lucky. I know they will need to be someone who understands what they are marrying. The work and what it costs. The coming back different. The replay that I haven't yet fully learned to leave. He paused. That's not luck. That's a specific kind of person making a specific choice with accurate information. I looked at him. The restaurant was quiet around us. Why are you telling me this? I said. He looked at me for a long moment. Because I think you might be that person, he said. And I think you should know what you're potentially choosing. I have thought about that answer many times in the years since. Not because it was romantic, it wasn't, particularly. It was precise and honest and slightly formal in the specific way of a man who had spent 15 years in a professional culture that valued the accurate briefing over the appealing one. I have thought about it because it was the first time, in my adult life, that someone had offered me complete information about themselves before I had a reason to ask for it, before I had even fully identified that the information was what I was looking for. He had seen what I was waiting for before I had seen it myself. Not another person, exactly. Not romance in the packaged version. The thing I had been waiting for was someone who would not ask me to manage my expectations downward. Who would not require me to occupy the partial version of myself, the professional one, the competent one, the contained one, while the rest of it waited somewhere it was not inconvenient. The thing I had been waiting for was someone who would hand me the full information and trust me to make a real decision with it. He had done that. On the 3rd dinner. Before I had even known I was deciding. We were together for 8 months before he deployed again. The 8 months were, I want to be careful here, because easy descriptions of this period would be dishonest and dishonesty, in a story that is specifically about what honesty costs and what it gives back, seems wrong. The 8 months were not easy. They were not the early relationship months of the packaged version, not effortless and light, not without difficulty. We were both people who had spent years in demanding work and had organized ourselves around the demands, and the adjustment to having someone present who required presence was not seamless. We argued about his unavailability. I was angry about it in ways that were legitimate and in ways that were about other things, older things, and he was patient with the legitimate anger and honest about where the other things were coming from. He did not manage me. He engaged me. There is a difference that I had not previously experienced and which, once experienced, made the absence of it in prior relationships legible in a new way. I argued about his need for silence when he came back from certain things, the specific withdrawal that I recognized from the work conversation, the residence in the replay. I did not try to pull him out of it. He had told me not to. He had told me, early on, that the right response was presence without demand, to be in the same space, available, not requiring him to surface until he surfaced. I practiced this. It was hard. I got better at it. He told me, one evening, that I was better at it than anyone he had encountered. Because I understand it, I said. I do the same thing. I know, he said. That's why. He deployed in December. He came back in July. Different, as he had said he would be, not dramatically, not in the way of movies, but in the accumulation of small increments that added up, over 7 months, to a person who had been somewhere I hadn't been and who had carried things I hadn't carried and who was, in the specific way he had described, changed. I was waiting at the base. I had been in trauma nursing for 8 years. I knew how to wait. When he came through the arrival area and found me, the specific moment of a return, which is not the movie version, which is quieter and more complicated and carries the full weight of the absence rather than erasing it, he stopped a few feet away and looked at me. I looked at him. "You're different," I said. "Yes," he said. "I know," I said. He came forward. I held him. Not the compressed, urgent version, the long, still version, the kind that is a conversation about time rather than its opposite. After a while he said, into my shoulder, "You're still here." "I told you I would be," I said. "I know," he said. I didn't entirely believe it. I pulled back and looked at him. "That's the honest version," I said. "It's the only version I have," he said. "I know," I said. "That's why I'm still here." We got married 11 months later. Not a large wedding. Not the kind that requires months of planning and a venue and the specific machinery of a wedding industry. A Saturday in October, a judge, the people who mattered, his family, mine, the lance corporal who had started all of it by needing a ride to a follow-up appointment. The lance corporal gave a toast. He said, "I don't know everything that happened. I know Major Okafor drove me to a hospital appointment and came back talking about a nurse, and that was 2 years ago, and now they're married, so I probably should have broken my arm sooner." The room laughed. Daniel smiled, the specific smile I had come to know, the real one, the one that was different from the professional version in a way that was only visible if you knew to look. I looked. The thing he said at the waterfront restaurant, I have turned it over many times, trying to understand what specifically it was that changed something in me. I think it was this: he had given me accurate information about a difficult thing before he had any reason to expect that I would receive it well. He had not managed the presentation. He had not softened the edges. He had not offered me the appealing version with a plan to introduce the accurate version later, when I was more committed, when leaving was harder. He had trusted me, before I had demonstrated that I could be trusted with it, with the full weight of what he actually was. That trust, offered before it was earned, based on the assessment of someone who had spent 15 years learning to assess accurately, was the thing. Not the romance. Not the compatibility, though that was real. The trust. The decision to hand me the information and believe I would know what to do with it. I had spent 7 years in trauma nursing learning that the body, under sufficient stress, reveals its true structure. The things that are actually strong hold. The things that only appeared strong fail. You cannot know in advance which is which. You can only be in the room when the stress arrives and observe what happens. He had handed me stress, the real information, the difficult version, the self-portrait without the flattering light, and trusted me to observe accurately. I had observed accurately. I had decided. The decision had held. That was, in the end, the whole of it. The whole of why his answer had changed my life. Not because it told me something about him. Because it asked something of me. It asked whether I was the kind of person who could receive accurate information and make a real choice, rather than the kind of person who needed the managed version, the softened edges, the flattering light. I was 31 years old when he asked it. I had not known, before he asked, what the answer was. The answer, it turned out, was yes. That was the thing I had been waiting for. Not to find out about him. To find out about myself. He is a colonel now. He has been deployed twice more since we married, once for 8 months, once for 5. Both times I waited. Both times he came back different in the incremental way. Both times we did the work of finding each other again, which is work that does not become easier exactly but becomes more practiced, which is its own kind of easier. I am still in trauma. I have moved into a supervisory role, not away from the floor, not into administration, but the kind of supervision that keeps you in the work while also training the people who are coming into it. I teach containment. I teach the difference between holding feeling and suppressing it. I teach the thing that 7 years on the floor had taught me before I knew it was being taught. Some of them are very good. Some of them have the stillness. I recognize it. I tell them, the replay is not a flaw. The replay is the mechanism. The problem is the residents. Some of them are too early in the work to understand this. They will understand it later. Daniel is home right now. He is in the kitchen, making the specific Saturday breakfast he makes on Saturdays when he is home, which is elaborate in a way that I have come to understand is his version of the domestic version of precision, the same quality of attention applied to eggs and coffee as to the decisions that I do not ask about and which he carries in the specific place where they are carried. We have been married for 4 years. We will have dinner with the Lance Corporal next week. He is a sergeant now. He got married last year. His wife is a teacher. He is happy in the uncomplicated way of someone who has found the right life and knows it. He still says he should have broken his arm sooner. I still think he's right. The thing I want to say, if there is a thing I want to say, if this story has a direction beyond the story itself, is this: the honest answer is not always the appealing one. The honest answer to whoever marries you will be lucky was not I am lucky to have found you and I will love you well. It was a careful accounting of cost and difficulty and the specific ways in which a person formed by hard work is also a person who brings the weight of that work into everything. That was the right answer. Not because difficulty is romantic. Because accurate information is the only foundation on which a real choice can be made. I had been, before that dinner, making choices based on partial information, not because I was deceived, but because I had not found someone willing to offer the full version before the investment was too deep to reconsider. He offered it first. He offered it early. He trusted me to receive it. I had not known, before I received it, that this was what I had been waiting for. The honest answer changed my life not because of what it revealed about him. Because of what it required of me. And because I was, it turned out, the person it required.